This is the multiple award-winning GardenDC podcast, the podcast about everything gardening in the Mid-Atlantic region and beyond. I'm your host, Kathy Jentz. I'm the editor of Washington Gardener magazine. Our content is aimed at gardening enthusiasts, people who grow everything from edibles to ornamentals, natives to exotics. If it grows in our area, that's what we talk about. Welcome to episode 287 of the GardenDC podcast. In this episode, we talk with Michelle Mingrone, founder of the Itty Bitty Mosquito Committee, about mosquito prevention tactics. The plant profile is on sweet potatoes, and we share what's going on in the garden, as well as some upcoming local gardening events in the What's New segment. We close out with the last word on cherry trees from pits from Christy Page of Green Prints. This episode, we're joined by Michelle Mingrone. She is the founder of the Itty Bitty Mosquito Population Committee. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Great to have you on. And we're going to talk all about that little booger, the mosquito, and how he's made our lives miserable and what we can do to reduce that population. But before we get into all of that, Michelle, we like to ask our guests here on the GardenDC podcast, were they born with chlorophyll in their veins and a green thumb?
Oh, absolutely not. My mom, on the other hand, more than a green thumb, she has a magic thumb. Her gardening abilities are just off the charts. I didn't actually start gardening until we bought our first home here in Capitol Hill about 8 years ago. I work in software and I needed a screen-free hobby, and that seemed like a good thing to do around the house and also a nice way to connect with my mom. So she and I have been working on our yard for the past 8 years, I guess, and just building it out. And I've been learning so much over a year, and she's turned me into a little bit of a plant nerd, actually.
Ooh, I love that. And yeah. I love that screen-free hobby. That's how we're going to market gardening from now on. Although you can be on a screen and gardening, but yes.
Sure, definitely.
Hopefully you're out there with dirt under your nails and really getting out there too.
Oh, yeah.
So you mentioned you're on Capitol Hill, and that would be in the heart of Washington, D.C., because there are Capitol Hills in other cities. So let's make that
true.
Clear for our listeners. Can you tell me a little bit about your growing conditions on Capitol Hill?
Well, it's interesting. Block by block, we have lots of different microclimates. My yard seems to be about a week behind everyone else, but it starts out pretty nice. But right around July, things get really dry and really hot. And that's when I kind of abandon my gardening and I leave things to fend for themselves. It's also when the mosquitoes get really bad. So rather than go and brave the heat and brave the mosquitoes, I just see what will survive for next year.
And then my walks around Capitol Hill, I usually attend the Historic Society's house and garden tour every year, try to visit friends up there. I feel like you are a zone higher at certain times a year, bordering on zone 8. And I would say the rest of the region is mainly zone 6, 7.
That sounds about right.
Yep. And what are you growing in your garden with your mom?
Well, we've turned it into a bit of a native plant nursery. My favorite is actually something that was there before we moved in. It's a climbing hydrangea that's all over the side of the house, and I've trained it over our fence, and it's making a really nice living wall. I have a lot of edibles, so planted a few fruit trees. We have a fig, some pears, some plums, a crabapple, a serviceberry, and our kids love to get out there and pick all the things.
Mm-hmm. I'm picking serviceberries right now. This is great serviceberry time. Always around Memorial Day, I find, for our area. And yeah, figs do so well on Capitol Hill. And that climbing hydrangea vine, it can take years to establish, years to get it over a whole wall like that. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's gorgeous. The birds love it.
Mm-hmm. They're so beautiful. And so let's talk about those nasty mosquitoes and why you started the Itty Bitty Mosquito Population Committee.
Oh, well, I mean, this is a battle a few years in the making. I want to say it was about 4 or 5 years ago. they started to get exceptionally bad in our yard. And I haven't actually dug into why, but each year I've tried to do more and more. We've been building out the biodiversity of our yard, and I have seen a lot more birds and wildlife and bugs and trying to get more predators coming in. I got buckets of doom set up, and I saw some really great success with that for, April and May and early June months in the first 2 years that I was doing it. But then come late June, the mosquito population just exploded and it overwhelmed all my traps, and it no longer mattered much, at least for my lived experience. I tried AGO traps, which is similar to the GAT trap we're deploying this year, but the sticky card goes around the edges of the trap, and it wasn't really catching a lot of mosquitoes. It was actually catching a lot more black flies. And just every year I was trying something new, and it just still, come July, it's just too many mosquitoes. And this year I was out in January because we had a pretty mild week. And I was thinking, I should really get ahead of mosquitoes this year. And I was looking from the street at my yard, and I noticed there's these two catch basins. And it occurred to me, these must be breeding grounds. Like, I know in this part of my yard, I'm just swarmed by mosquitoes every year. And I'm not doing anything about those catch basins. There must be standing water. And sure enough, there is. So that sent me down a whole other rabbit hole of, can I toss a mosquito dunk down there? Is that safe for the Anacostia River? Is there anyone in the city that's responsible for treating these that I should be reaching out to? Can I get permission to do this? If it's even effective? If I throw a mosquito dunk down there, is it just going to wash away into the drain and I'm just literally throwing money down the drain? So I started emailing around. I was emailing around DC government. I was finding other mosquito groups in other neighborhoods to see if they've dealt with similar issues, and wasn't getting much traction, but then did get an email back from the Department of Energy and Environment here in DC. And someone there doesn't actually work on this, but in a previous life had been treating catch basins in Richmond with larvicides, and was saying she's a water quality expert, huge environmentalist. This is like standard practice for different cities and super safe for the water. BTIs is harmless, mosquito dunks, and that she would recommend going with that route. I also learned in this process that DC Health is responsible for doing these larvicidal treatments of standing water throughout the city, but their resources have been cut back so much. They have one person performing complaint-based treatment throughout the city. So I could call and say, hey, my catch basin is certainly a breeding ground. Someone, if they had bandwidth, would come out, treat it once, but then I'd have to call again to get it retreated when it needed to be refreshed, or there was a huge rainstorm and needed a top up. And it's just not sustainable. And I'm just as good at going out and throwing something down there. So that was sort of the genesis of me thinking about, like, how do we start tackling this problem? At the same time, through my research, when I was looking at other neighborhood groups that were doing something about mosquito control within their neighborhoods, I found the University Park, Maryland group. They had run a study a couple years ago deploying GAT traps at scale across University Park, and saw really great success, especially in areas with huge amounts of participation. On a whim, I just emailed Jentz, who's the manufacturer of the trap they were using. I had no reason to use any other traps. It was just, I saw Jentz's name, so figured I would reach out to them. Asked if they would provide us a community discount because they had done the same for University Park. They said, sure, what's your head count? So I created a quick form and I sent it over Moth, which is our Capitol Hill parent listserv. It has about 2,000 people on it, but I thought, maybe I might get like 100 responses if I'm really lucky. But I was really expecting something quite south of that. And instead, I got 600 responses within the first 4 days. People saying, yes, I am interested. I would love to purchase a trap at a discount and perform other non-toxic, pesticide-free mosquito prevention tactics.
Wow.
And it's just sort of snowballed from there.
Yeah, I am not surprised at
No.
the 600 response right away. I would have been surprised if it wasn't that, because I don't think there's anybody who's like, yeah, you know what? I love mosquitoes. Leave them alone.
I know.
And most of us want to be out there enjoying our summer evenings, enjoying soccer games in the neighborhood parks, and not having to be constantly swatting at mosquitoes and dealing with those. So let's break down some of what you discussed as far as tactics for getting mosquitoes. But also to continue your story, once you put out that post, you got all those responses. I think you have a great website up that we should plug.
Oh, thank you.
And I think anybody can visit it anywhere and sign up,
Yes,
right? Even if they're not in the district or not on Capitol Hill.
of course. Yeah, so the website is ittybitty-mosquito-committee.org. And if you have any questions, you can email me at ittybitty-mosquito-committee@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. And so what is I know this is a very new project, right?
Yes.
But what are you thinking for scaling this up? I think you have about 1,400 households already committed to this. But you're just one person.
Yes.
and like me, I'm sure you have many other things you're doing and working on too. Do you have like deputies out there in each of the neighborhoods going to teach people about these things? How are you going to scale this?
This whole process has been a lot of trial and error. So each day I try to think about what is like the most pressing thing that needs to get out into the community to get out our message, to get people set up with traps, to get them feeling really good about and feeling really confident about doing these simple spray-free tactics on a day-to-day basis. And something that emerged out of this is the concept of a block captain. I don't think this is like an unfamiliar concept. I know a bunch of other organizations use it. But the way we're thinking about it is mosquitoes, they don't respect property lines. Everything is going to work better if you have your whole block, all of your immediate neighbors working together and holding each other accountable. And as far as traps are concerned, coordinating where things are placed so you're getting full coverage and optimal coverage across an area versus individual households. So we have the block captain set up so people will volunteer and say like, hey, I want to be the main POC for my block, with the main criteria just being a friendly point of contact, someone that will raise their hand, reach out to their neighbors and say, look, we have this new initiative. Here are like some different resources that are available. If you want to join this channel and I can help get you set up. And then from there, it's a real choose your own adventure. We have a lot of block captains that are actually going and helping people set up traps. They've created group orders and gotten free shipping for everybody. They're organizing neighborhood like alley walks to tip their trash cans in the recycling bins that are filling with standing water. We're really encouraging a lot of creativity, and we have a block captain channel where all of these block captain volunteers are sharing tips and tricks and answering each other's questions. And we'll see what comes from that, but trying to keep everything pretty organic. So the way that we have this set up is you can go onto our website. We have a block captain map, and I've actually inputted all of the areas that have a block captain volunteer. You can contact your block captain through there. And if you don't have one, if no one has volunteered for your block, you can sign up. And I would get you hooked up to the map. Anyone else can reach out to you. And the next thing that you would do is create, say, a WhatsApp channel or go door to door to all your neighbors and let them know that this group exists and that if they're interested in participating, you can talk them through all the steps.
I love that it's grassroots, Michelle. And I think, as you were saying, the city has limited resources. Most of us are looking at increased taxes for less amount of services these days. And because of the economy, I think a lot of us, it's going to have to be DIY. You can't rely on the government to be taking care of mosquitoes for you. And if you did call up the government, they might come and do a broad spectrum spray program, which I think a lot of us would not be happy about, especially those of us with backyard ponds and water gardens. Not a great thing. And so maybe let's address that for the listeners out there who are like, well, I have a mosquito spray service I'm taking care of. Why not spray?
Oh, there's a few reasons. There's the toxic elements and how There's various negative effects for you, your health, your children, your pets. But I think, bottom line is it actually just doesn't work. I've had a number of people who have joined up with our committee saying, I've tried spraying the past few years, but come July, it's no longer effective. Like, I saw some results the first 2 months and then it was nothing. And turns out, many mosquitoes, the tiger mosquito included, which is the one that plagues us in particular, uh, actually adapt to the different spray formulations.
Mm-hmm.
And then since you've sprayed, you're killing indiscriminately, right? Like, you're killing all of the predators and it's affecting that whole food chain. Um, that whole population has collapsed. So when the mosquitoes bounce back, they're going to bounce back harder. So despite all of the negative effects, like, it also just doesn't work. So we need to get from that defensive approach, which is what spraying is, to a more offensive approach, which is just like reducing the mosquito population and reducing the amount of sources that they can breed in.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of the spray services, they might say it's a natural substance. That doesn't mean that when it touches the wings of a butterfly, it also doesn't stop them. So that could be a
Correct.
natural substance like a cedar oil or other essential oil. If the oil is going to touch a beneficial, like a firefly, a bee, a butterfly, it's going to impact them just the same as it would a mosquito's wings.
Correct.
And of course, nobody needs to be paying $75, $150 per treatment once a month, especially if it's ineffective.
Yeah.
So, you might see that quick result, and then in a day or two, they're coming back. And like you said before, mosquitoes don't obey your property line. They don't be like, oh, well, you know what, Helen sprayed, I'm not going to go over there. They see an empty area that maybe you cleared out from previous competitive mosquitoes, and now they're going to move in. And the interesting thing I was reading about mosquitoes and studies is that they don't obey property lines per se, but they usually don't go far. Like, it's usually 100-yard radius from where they were born. So if you can stop wherever they are emerging from, you can cut down a lot on mosquitoes. So let's talk about some of those ways to stop them from even starting. And that's, you alluded to, going in your back alley, dumping out water saucers that might be sitting under your plants. My big thing, Michelle, and I go around with a pocket full of mosquito bits, is anytime I see something growing in somebody's gutters, that tells me that there's something breeding there. So if you see a little tree sprouting out of a neighbor's gutter, maybe knock on their door, give them a handful of mosquito bits and say, could you throw those up in there? Maybe you can't afford right now to have your gutters cleaned. That would be ideal, of course, to get your gutters cleaned and flowing. But meanwhile, if it's sitting water, oh my goodness, Michelle, the amount of swarms I've seen just come out of gutters and just like swoop down. You're like, they're literally above your head.
Yeah. So to that point, I understand why people spray. The mosquitoes here are so bad. You just want to do something. So that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to give you something very action oriented that you can do that will reduce all of the population. So the first thing that we suggest, the least expensive, it's free, and the most effective, is to toss as much standing water as you see. A mosquito takes just a cap full of water to breed. So if there's standing water, toss it. All of the little folds in, like, your tarps that are on top of your grill and your furniture, your fire pit, you would be shocked at how little it takes. So make sure those get a good shake and you get all the water out. I'm also really bad about leaving tarps around when I'm dragging dirt through my yard. Get rid of that.
I would say same in our community garden. I've been the kind of patrol person, and when somebody will have like a landscape fabric folded up into a pile, and all of a sudden it seems like it's dry, it's drought time in late summer, I pick up that folded fabric and like a gallon of water pours out, and you're like, oh my God, that's been sitting for weeks like that. And of course it's a mosquito breeding vector right there. The other things I was thinking about were, you were talking about storm drains, putting a few mosquito bits or part of a dunk down those. If you have a rain barrel. Yeah. And
so
I would
treating,
say,
So first is toss,
it,
then it's treat. So get your mosquito dunks and your mosquito bits. They're available at any hardware store. The mosquito dunks are really great for larger surfaces of water. And they last a little longer, and you can break the chunks up depending on how big that area is. Like I have a pond, a frog pond in my yard. I'm trying to attract dragonflies, which also love mosquitoes. So I put in a dunk in there. The rain barrel is a great one. I actually only learned about the rain barrel this year, and that certainly was causing a lot of mosquitoes in my yard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you have a screen, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe a mosquito can't get in there to breed. And we should be really clear with the mosquito bits and dunks. And I'll put a link to how to order those in the show notes. You can get them on Amazon, your local hardware store. Everybody has mosquito bits and dunks in stock, and that's from Summit Control is who manufactures them. They're based in Baltimore. Bless them, a local business that they've put this together. And so the dunks look like a little mini flat donut, and you can break them up. I usually will put a quarter of a dunk into my rain barrel, even though I do have a screen on the top. And then mosquito bits, I'll put in areas that, at the bottom of your gutter. Places that get wet, but then dry, and then get wet and then dry. Or like on top of even soil surface, if you have a pot that just stays wet, that doesn't drain well, that's a good one to put it. But I was going to say about the BT that's in mosquito bits and dunks, what it stops is them being able to breed on the water surface. So it's like we'll call it a birth control.
Yeah.
But what it doesn't do, and what people I think are confused about, is it doesn't kill the current generation of mosquitoes.
Correct. Yes,
so
it's just a larvicide. It just kills the larva. And it's super safe for everyone else, for everything else. It only targets the mosquito larva and I believe fungus gnats.
Yes.
But safe for pets, safe for all of your pollinators and animals. Like there is no concern about it harming any other living creature or your plants.
Yep. It's literally just like a bacteria that infects the eggs of just these few species. And birds can drink out of my rain barrel and your water bowls that you put it in. So if you have like a little butterfly ponding, saucer, put a little couple bits in there. You do have to reapply. I would say every 30 days or so.
Yeah.
Put in a new piece.
It's every 30 days for dunks and I think every 2 weeks for bits because they're just, I think, dissolve a little faster. The other thing for treat, since we're in DC in an urban area, is the catch basins and then also underground like telecom vaults, metro grates. And this is the one that surprised me and surprises everyone else. And I'm pretty sure is going to be one of the most effective things from this initiative. So what I learned about catch basins, now catch basins are those little grates at the side of the curb that all the stormwater runs into and gets into like the sewage system. A catch basin, a few of them are designed to actually hold standing water. Debris will sink down to the bottom and then water will float on top until it reaches a level so it can flow into the pipes.
Yikes.
So it's like always holding water, and that's the one that's by my house. You throw a little pebble down there and it just makes a huge splash. Those need to be treated. Like thousands upon thousands of mosquitoes are getting bred in there.
Oh my goodness.
Then you it's dark.
It's wet.
There's trash down there.
Oh, that's mosquitoes like heaven. Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the ones that are not meant to hold standing water, but they get filled with debris. And so they're going to be similarly moist and holding water. So those are huge sources. And then you also have telecom vaults, which I wasn't really aware of before this whole research process. So when you're walking on the sidewalk, you'll see manhole covers, and they have two little holes in the side, or maybe a few holes. Those are called pick holes, and it's what crews will use to actually take the manhole cover off. These cover up vaults for different utility companies to like reach pipes or electrical things. They're not connected to the sewage system at all. But those holes, the pick holes, are perfect little holes for rainwater and other water to get into. And then there's nowhere for the water to go because it's not connected to anything. So again, another dark, warm spot for mosquitoes to just breed and thrive.
Yeah, and I think once your eyes are open to those type of spots, like tires that are sitting somewhere in storage, You turn them over every once in a while, at least once a week if you can. If you can point it out to a nearby neighbor that they have a stack of pots that's collecting water that they might not even be aware of on the side of their house. Those black corrugated drains, Michelle, that some people use to extend their gutters out and drain towards a street. Every one of those little corrugated bumps down holds water sometimes. And if you just pick it up once in a while and give it a shake, that helps a lot too.
Yes. There's also one last one, drains under people's stairs. And this is very common in DC, and especially in town, like in the row houses. There are these like little circular drains. They're just constantly filled with water. And it was very fascinating. We did a block walk and talking to neighbors about where they were experiencing the most mosquito pressure, and almost always it was within 6 feet of one of these drains or a manhole cover or a catch basin. They're just unseen but massive vectors. So pay attention and treat them. And I also do want to call out one other thing. Like, we're taking a lot of time to talk about this, and it seems really overwhelming. There's just so many places where there can be standing water, but it actually doesn't take that much time to just like walk around your yard, walk around your block, toss a dunk, toss some bits, tip something over. It only takes maybe 15 minutes once a week. It's not too bad, especially when you're doing it together.
That's even more fun.
Yes.
If you can get your kids, do it while you're walking your dog, get some neighbors, you get some exercise done. But yeah, I just do a quick patrol around our community garden. And if I see buckets collecting water, or sometimes a wheelbarrow hasn't been turned over and it's just sitting with water in it, that takes 2 seconds to turn that over. And same thing, once you start knowing your neighborhood, your own property, it's even quicker. I'm going to throw a bit here, here, and here. These are my spots that I always do. And then having an eye out for other places. Oh, Michelle, I just thought of another sneaky place I found mosquitoes breeding on my property with my neighbor. So there was an old metal fence, and in the poles that hold up the fence, the tops had come off at some point with previous owners.
Yeah.
And it literally is like a 3-foot high, 2-inch diameter. And they were filled to the top with water when I put my finger in.
Horrifying.
I was like, what the heck? So a lot of those tops of your fence posts, if it is a hollow pipe or something like that, definitely put a couple mosquito bits in there, and then try to not have water by capping them if you can.
Yeah.
So anything like that, that's the drain pipe sitting in the ground sometimes, or an old pipe that's no longer connected to something, but it's still sticking out. I'll see those every once in a while. Those will obviously fill with water.
GardenDC will be back after this short break.
Get low-maintenance alternatives to lawns with Ground Cover Revolution by Kathy Jentz. Reducing the lawn is among the biggest trends in homeownership, with an endless stream of homeowners looking for an eco-friendly alternative to a traditional turfgrass lawn. In the last few years alone, over 23 million Americans converted part of their lawn to a natural landscape, and now they're looking to do even more. The biggest challenge to adopting this new ideal of the perfect lawn? Knowing how and when to replace your turf, and which plants are the best ones for the job. Ground Cover Revolution is here with all the answers you need, and some you didn't even know you needed. Included are 40 in-depth profiles of plants that are perfect choices for replacing a grass lawn. There are options for sun, for shade, for dry and wet sites, and for various climates around the globe. There are choices that bloom, options that are evergreen, and selections that are deer-resistant. Kathy Jentz has also included an incredibly useful chart that gives you all the specifics on each of the 40 choices for quick reference and to make your ground cover selection process even easier. Whether you want to replace the entire lawn or just reduce the amount of land dedicated to turf, Ground Cover Revolution will help you usher in a new and improved idea of what a beautiful lawn should be. Ground Cover Revolution is available now wherever you buy books, including Amazon.com and Bookshop.org.
You had mentioned before the buckets of doom, and I've made a few of those. They have different names. So there's DIY ones, and then the ones you mentioned having group purchases to order. So let's tell people about these mosquito trap buckets and how you can make your own, and
Yes.
then some of the ones you can purchase commercially.
Perfect. Yeah. So trap, that's the third T in our list of actions. So I think it's helpful to think about traps as a part of the mosquito life cycle. So mosquitoes lay eggs in water. The larva develops there. Once they become mosquitoes, the female mosquitoes are looking for a blood meal. That's when they go to a person and bite them, or they can bite an animal. It doesn't have to be a person. And then after they've had that blood meal, they mate and look to lay eggs again. So there's two different styles of traps. You have traps that target these adult females that are looking to lay eggs. And then you have traps that are looking to attract and trap the adult females looking to bite a person. They're host seeking. So the traps targeting egg laying mosquitoes include a bucket of doom. So this is something you can DIY. Some hardware stores even have like DIY kits already like sitting there ready for you to buy. It's a bucket. You could even use a solo cup, really any container. You want it to be dark so that it absorbs heat and is like a little bit more attractive of a breeding ground. You fill it with water and some organic material like dried grass, leaves, hay, something to make kind of like, honestly, like a gross pool of stagnant water. And that is the type of breeding ground that a female mosquito is attracted to. So that'll attract the female, and then you toss a dunk in, or a quarter of a dunk, and that would kill the larva. It does not kill the adult females. It just prevents the next generation of mosquitoes from being born.
And she's wasted her eggs.
Yes.
Yeah, I've done the bucket of doom in a few places. I think I was reading one study that said if every 25 yards, like one in the front yard, one in the backyard, one in the side, depending on the how big your yard is. But if you're a series of row houses, one per backyard would take care of it, really.
Yeah. The other thing to note about these buckets of doom is that you do have to stay on top of refreshing those dunks, because if you don't, you have just created another breeding ground.
Yes, that would be the worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario.
And I find really good success with those, having them under a shady type shrub. So like a oak leaf hydrangea or a cuba, something like that. You're like your back shady area. It's out of the way. It's not the most, I'm going to say, attractive thing in your yard to leave a bucket out there. And you're like, somebody would be like, what is that? But so you're purposely creating that pool of water that you've dumped everywhere else. You made sure the rest of your landscape doesn't have any water sitting, and then you say, come on over, Ms. Mosquito. And the great thing is, all you really need to do is the dunks. You probably have a black bucket somewhere. You certainly have water and can take grass trimmings. Like you said, sometimes I'll like even smush up some type of straw amendment or something. I heard that they really like sweet stuff.
Yeah.
It's great for that. Sometimes I'll put like a type of mesh on the top has wide enough openings, like hardware cloth or chicken wire, that mosquitoes can totally get through, can come back and forth. But I don't want other little critters going in there and maybe drowning.
So your notes on the trap placement is true for all of the traps. Mosquitoes love to hang out in cool, shaded, kind of moist areas. So under vegetation, out of the wind, that's where they like to hang out, and that's where your traps will be most effective. Similar to the buckets of doom, you have the GAT trap. This is the one that we've arranged a community discount for with Jentz. It has the same principle. You put some water in the bottom with a little organic material to create that breeding ground that's attractive. And then it has a net, or it has a clear funnel on top, and underneath that is a net. So the adult mosquito is attracted down the funnel. It can't actually reach the water to lay eggs. And then there's a vertical sticky card. And mosquitoes are pretty erratic flyers, so it'll hit the mosquito card either on the way in or on the way out and get stuck there and die. Similarly, It is an open top, so if you're worried about critters getting in there, I would recommend putting chicken wire over it too. It's the same exact thing, but that's what the gat trap does.
And it looks just like, a clear funnel on top with a black rim kind of elevated. And the good thing is it's not just the larvicide, it's also a trap for the actual mosquitoes that are active right now.
Exactly. It's a little smaller. Well, you can make anything into a bucket of doom, but it is smaller than a 5-gallon bucket. And you can tuck those away a little bit more neatly, or at least I had more success tucking it away more neatly than my buckets of doom. And there are a few other traps out there on the market. I'm not sure what the relative efficacy of all of them is, but that are targeting these egg-laying females. But we can go to the host-seeking mosquito traps. So Jentz makes a Mosquito. This is a much more expensive, fancier trap. It's electric powered, so you do need an electrical outlet outside or some sort of power source, which can be challenging for some yards. And it's shaped, it's kind of like a large planter, and it has a white top. So what it is there's a fan on the outside and then a little chamber on the interior of it where you put this patented sweet scent. It basically mimics BO. It smells disgusting, but the mosquitoes love it. The mosquitoes are attracted to that sweet scent smell, and the fan sucks them in, and they get sucked into a net. They get stuck there, and that's where they die. The sweet scent is sufficient for DC to get a fair number of mosquitoes. I was pretty successful, but if you want to up your range or up the number of the variety of mosquitoes that you're attracting to your trap, you can also optionally add a CO2 hookup and get a big CO2 canister, probably from like a local welding shop or air gas or a beverage company. And that really ups the amount of productivity of the Mosquito trap.
And that's kind of like the high end one. And I think, I don't want to call it overkill, Michelle, but I would think, maybe before a big event, if you were going to host a wedding, say in your backyard or a barbecue, maybe you might deploy this one because it is a little expensive, right, to have that one and to keep it plugged in all the time.
It actually doesn't require that much energy. I think it was like the same amount as a hairdryer.
Okay.
Jentz is a German company, and they care a lot about sort of the energy efficiency and being as forward leaning on that end as possible. It is expensive though. I think even with our discount, one trap is $150. That said, I've been using it for about 6 weeks in my yard, and I've been amazed at how productive it is. It's been catching so much.
Good to know. And you do have to replenish the sachets, the scent sachets, and the lure and the things. And the same thing with the gat trap you talked about earlier. You have to replace that sticky card, I think every couple of weeks, at least once a month, if you're going to wait that long.
Yes, you should be replacing those sticky cards every 2 weeks, and the sweet scent sachets every 8 weeks.
So mark your schedule, set a phone alarm to change
those
and make that part of your regular schedule. And if you, every once in a while, make sure that we don't have a huge storm or wind event and these traps get knocked over.
Yes.
So then they spill out, and then you might have to replace and reset them at that point.
Yes, that is a good call out.
I think we don't have hurricanes, knock on wood, that often. That might be something to bring into your shed or something before a big wind event like that would happen. And it's not like that big of a thing to reset them. And the great thing I think about these, Michelle, is they are so easy DIY. They don't require you to have any electrical degree.
No.
Or anything else. They're pretty much set it and forget it. And then just replacing the yellow sticky card and the gat one every few weeks, or just throwing a new piece of dunk in the bucket of doom.
Yeah, I will say the Mosquito, the CO2 hookup is a little tricky. I was able to do it, but I could see it being a challenge, especially when I go to replace it every so often. There are services that you can look into that will handle a lot of this maintenance for you if you just don't have time or don't want to think about it. But it's definitely manageable.
Yeah. And I would say good to know for the hookup thing. And I was going to say about the bucket of doom too thing that I've noticed is when we do have periods of drought, so that's usually our July into August, and or you're on vacation, you might let whomever might be walking your dog or watering your plants for you while you're away, let them know too. Like,
Yes.
could you make sure water is topped off, that it doesn't totally dry out, and or that it's there? Because again, they might think they're doing you a favor by dumping it out for you, because
Right.
I certainly would if I was going to somebody's house and I didn't know what it was. But putting like a little sticker, like a mosquito stick, anti-mosquito sticker, little X over them or something else, or just letting them know would go a long way.
Yeah. I love some people enter their buckets of doom into different contests if you want to decorate them, which is also a fun activity.
I think that would be a great neighborhood get together, is to make these and then decorate them and have a contest. I think that's a great idea. And there's usually always one person, like you were talking about with the block captains, but I find on my local neighborhood listservs, there's always one person who's appointed themselves as mosquito czar or something.
Yes.
And they'll post every once in a while, have you checked your gutters? Have you checked the downspouts? And I'm always grateful for that, because you're like, oh, I do need to replenish with my mosquito bits and throw them out again and make sure if I have any standing water. So it's always great to have that person around. So other tips for mosquito control. So we talked about dumping any standing water, making sure to treat any water that is going to stay standing that we just can't get to, and then, of course, creating these traps. But do we have other ways of combating mosquitoes?
Yes, this one is maybe more future leaning and you won't see as much of an impact immediately, but trading your invasive plants that are super friendly to mosquitoes for natives that support more of that predatorial ecosystem. Some common ones that we see in Capitol Hill, English ivy is so attractive for mosquitoes. It's shady. It provides lots of like little hiding nooks and protected areas for them to just hang out and rest. If you wanted to change that out for something else, you could consider Pachyra, which is a nice like low-lying spreading growth habit that kind of mimics what ivy is doing. Or you could do Virginia creeper, or let's see, what are some other good ones?
Well,
Heuchera.
Yeah, I was going to say heuchera is a great choice, and there's lots of other ground cover choices. I wrote a whole book about them, Michelle.
Oh, amazing.
But as far as for the Pachyra, I would recommend our native Pachyra. That can also have its own vector for boxwood disease. And there's so much boxwood on Capitol Hill, we wouldn't want that to happen.
Yes.
And I've tried to look up studies on mosquitoes and English ivy, and there really is only anecdotal evidence out there.
Interesting.
There's not been an actual study showing it, but if you're finding that's what's happening in your yard, by all means, replace the English ivy with another great ground cover choice, and or just make sure that maybe you weed whack it back every once in a while, kind of groom it and make sure there's no standing water under it.
Yes.
Usually English ivy doesn't like to be in standing water. It would start to rot as well as other ground covers. But if you do find there's a wet spot under there, that might be what's causing the mosquitoes in that area. And I was going to say, as far as plant choices, there's all these internet memes and advice that I don't love, because it's telling people that certain plants are mosquito repellent. But you would have to be sitting in a grove of lavender, rubbing it all over your body and having tons of it for the lavender to be effective, right? So same thing with cedar oil. You could have a whole orchard of cedar, but it's not going to stop the mosquitoes from biting you, the human who's exuding that sweet smell and, the CO2 that they're really attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm like, by all means, grow lavender, grow those great plants, but just don't believe the hype that they are mosquito repellent plants.
Yes.
And my favorite is always that certain geraniums, again, or eating certain food like garlic will repel mosquitoes. And I think it's just not been proven yet, but by all means, eat all the garlic you want to. Maybe it'll work for you.
We should talk about the last T in our action list, which I think is probably the most important, at least from the Itty Bitty Mosquito Population Committee's perspective, which is talk to your neighbors and get everyone on board. I think it's unreasonable to expect us all to be perfect, but the more coverage we get, the more people that are engaging in as many of these tactics as possible, the better our results will be. And so, we really do want to get out there, getting people talking about this, learning about like what mosquito dunks are for the first time. And paying attention to these standing water sources, trying out a trap and working together. And I think a really nice added outcome of this whole effort has been making more community. Neighbors are meeting each other for the first time and really like forming a tighter knit community. And that's been really nice to see.
I think that's a wonderful side effect of this campaign, Michelle. And let's give that website address again so people know where to find you.
ittybitty-mosquito-committee.org.
And Michelle, I have to ask, do you have any Itty Bitty Mosquito Committee wearables, gear?
Oh, they're coming. It's coming. I have a whole line of swag dreamed up in my head. I need to get it out there.
Yeah, I definitely need at least a t-shirt. I think you're going to do very well with those. And I would love to see every block captain across the city and the region and anybody else who is a self-appointed Itty Bitty Mosquito Committee member to be wearing those. And then the conversation starts, right?
Yes.
And then you get to tell them all about the buckets of doom and what you're doing. So I think it's great to spread the word on that. So thank you so much, Michelle, for coming on the podcast. Any final thoughts on mosquito control?
We have a rainy weekend here in DC, but I encourage everyone to go out and check their yards, toss some water, treat some water, make sure things are turned over. We're all in it together.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you.
GardenDC will be back after this short break.
In the book The Urban Garden by Kathy Jentz and Terry Spate, you'll find dozens of inspiring and creative ways to grow flowers, shrubs, vegetables, herbs, and other plants in small spaces and with a limited budget. Whether you want to grow on a balcony, rooftop, front stoop, or a tiny urban patio, turn your growing dreams into reality and build a gorgeous and unique garden that showcases your personal style while still being functional and productive. With the ingenious ideas and resourceful tactics found here, you'll be maximizing yields and beauty from every square inch of your space. No matter what you grow, the 101 amazing growing ideas found in the urban garden will turn your tiny urban yard into a treasure trove of green you'll be proud to share with family and friends. Buy your copy today at your local retail bookseller or order it online now at Amazon.com or bookshop.org.
Sweet potato, plant profile. Sweet potato, Ipomeo batatas, is an edible member of the morning glory family. There are hundreds of kinds of sweet potatoes with a variety of skin and flesh colors, including yellow, white, orange, red, and purple. They are native to the northwestern part of South America and are hardy in zones 10 to 11. Many people grow them just for their fleshy roots, but the ornamental heart-shaped leaves are also edible. The foliage is full of antioxidants and tastes like baby spinach. To grow sweet potatoes, you will need warm nights and days above 72 degrees for about 4 to 5 months. However, many varieties such as Beauregard have been developed to mature faster. Sweet potatoes grow from sprouts called slips. Slips can be purchased from mail order catalogs or local nurseries, or they can be encouraged to grow from sweet potatoes. Cut the tips off a sweet potato and suspend it above a jar filled with water, anchoring it with toothpicks. When all chances of a frost have passed, plant the rooted sprouts in the garden or in a large container filled with well-draining soil. Fertilize sparingly, if at all. Water sparingly. They are drought-resistant and will rot if the soil is too moist. Sweet potatoes are ready to harvest when the leaves turn yellow in the fall. Be sure to dig them before they are touched by a frost. They can be eaten immediately, but the flavors intensify when they are cured. Curing is also necessary if you want to store them over the winter. To cure sweet potatoes, spread them out on newspapers in a humid spot out of the direct sun and where temperatures stay around 80 degrees. After a week of curing, place them in a humid, well-ventilated area where temperatures stay around 55 degrees. Sweet potato, you can grow that. What's new in the garden this week? Well, I'm enjoying the blooms of my oak leaf hydrangea ruby slippers and the Brazilian verbena. Over at the community garden plot, I'm harvesting the last asparagus and adding lemon basil to our pollinator strip. In the tips that we shared this week on social media, we talked all about gardening with kids, including to get kids excited about gardening, give them their own designated plot or a specific container that is theirs to plant in. Let them choose what they want to grow and encourage them to maintain and observe it throughout the growing season. Then let them choose what to do with their harvest. If it's an edible produce, they can eat it or donate it to a local food pantry. Please vote for our show, the GardenDC podcast, at thebest of2026.washingtoncitypaper.com. Go to Arts and Entertainment category, Best Local Podcaster. The deadline to vote is June 10th, 2026. Thank you in advance. In local gardening events that you might want to attend, I am giving a talk on tomatoes on Wednesday, May 27th at the Capital Area Food Bank's Urban Demonstration Garden in Northeast Washington, D.C. You can come in person, and there's also a virtual option available. We're going to take a deep dive into the best practices with tomatoes and get some hands-on practice planting them. Attendees may also be able to take a tomato seedling home with them as supplies last. I'm also donating a free signed copy of the Urban Garden 101 Ways to Grow Food and Beauty in the City to one of the in-person attendees at this event. To RSVP and to find out more, email xcoleman@capitalareafoodbank.org, and you can sign up at their calendly.com link. Then on Thursday, May 28th at 7 p.m., I'm giving a talk for Brookside Gardens in Wheaton, Maryland. This is fully virtual, and it is entitled Perfect Fit Trees and Shrubs for Compact Gardens. Discover the possibilities of planting small trees and large shrubs in urban and suburban spaces. This talk is tailored for the Mid-Atlantic and includes a selection of natives, edibles, and hardy ornamentals that thrive in heat, pollution, and urban stress. And the fee for that is $15. You can register through Active Montgomery or the Montgomery Parks website. And then on Friday, May 29th at 12 noon Eastern Time, giving an online lecture for the U.S. Botanic Garden entitled Growing Roses Organically. And this will be a practical and engaging conversation about growing beautiful, resilient roses from pruning and maintenance to common challenges. This is part of the America State Flowers America 250 celebration at the U.S. Botanic Garden. It is free, but registration is required. It is fully online. Go to usbg.gov. And then on Saturday, June 20th, looking ahead, you can take a garden tour of Green Spring Gardens in Alexandria, Virginia at 9:30 a.m. Join the special tour with Extension Master Gardener docents to explore the upper and lower gardens, including the Virginia Native Plant Garden and Woodland Stream Valley. There's a $15 per person fee, and you can register online at fairfaxcounty.gov.
This is The Last Word by Christy Page with Food Gardening Network on how to grow cherry trees from pits step by step by Bill Dugan. Have you ever wondered if you can grow cherry trees from pits? Admittedly, this is a long process, up to 7 years to fruit, but it can be done, and it's much cheaper than buying bare root or potted plants. The fun is in tending your pretty new cherry tree while you wait for it to fruit. Keep in mind, though, many cherry varieties require a partner tree of a different variety to pollinate them. Two of the same variety will not work for cross-pollination unless you have seed-grown trees. So if you're planning to grow cherry trees from pits, you'll need fresh local cherries and 2 different types. Buying cherry trees is sounding more appealing by the minute, am I right? But if you want to take the plunge and grow from the pit, here's how to do it. First, buy or pick locally grown cherries. Start by buying some cherries fresh from a local source, not from the supermarket. Those cherries have been refrigerated and probably won't germinate. And if you get them from a local farm, you'll know the trees will be suitable for your climate. 2, clean the pits. After you eat the cherries, save some seeds and put them in a bowl of warm water, allowing them to soak for a few minutes. Then gently clean them to remove remaining bits of fruit pulp. 3, dry the pits. Spread the seeds out on a paper towel and let them dry for 5 days. They should be kept in a warm area like a sunny windowsill. Then put them in a plastic or glass jar or container with a tight-fitting lid and stash them in the refrigerator for 10 weeks. This mimics the winter cold that they would go through in nature. 4, grow your seedlings from the pits. After 10 weeks, take the cherry pits out of the refrigerator and let them come to room temperature, about 3 hours. You can then plant them in a small container with potting soil, planting 2 or 3 pits in each container. Put them in a sunny spot and keep them moist but not wet. 5, thin your cherry seedlings. Once you have seedlings about 2 inches tall, thin them so only the tallest remains. Keep them in a sunny spot until spring has arrived and the last danger of frost has passed. 6, plant your seedlings. Plant them 20 feet apart and keep the site protected by trampling by marking it with poles or sticks. You can also skip the refrigerator process and plant the seeds directly outside in the fall, but you'll need to plant a few more than you want because you won't get as many seeds to sprout. You can plant them wherever they'll be safe from wind or foot traffic because you'll transplant them later to a permanent spot when they're 10 to 12 inches tall. Put a light layer of mulch around them. 7, fertilize your cherry trees every year in the spring. This is really important for them to start to bear fruit. So until they are bearing fruit, fertilize each year and then fertilize only after harvesting each season. Water your cherry trees often. 8, cover your cherry trees. Protect from wildlife that might want to eat the plants by wrapping loosely in burlap in mid to late autumn, then removing the burlap in early April. Keep doing this for the first 2 to 3 years to protect the young bark, which is key to many critters. 9, enjoy the bounty of your cherry trees. After about 7 years, your little cherry pits will finally be making fruits of their own. Enjoy your harvest. This has been The Last Word by Christy Page at foodgardening.com.
Thank you for listening to GardenDC. This episode was made by real humans. It was produced and hosted by myself, Kathy Jentz. The Let the Sunshine music interludes are by James Mulvaney. If you like this episode, you may also enjoy listening to GardenDC podcast episode 255, Expert Advice for Tick-Free Gardening. Episode 115, The Dreaded Spotted Lanternfly. Episode 198, Rats and Other Destructive Critters. You can become a listener supporter by going to the link in our show notes. Another way to support this podcast is to subscribe to our monthly digital publication, Washington Gardener Magazine. To do so, go to WashingtonGardener.com or WashingtonGardener.blogspot.com. You can find Washington Gardener on Twitter or X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Pinterest at WDC Gardener, and on Facebook at Washington Gardener Magazine. And be sure to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast listening app. Please take a moment to share us on social media with hashtag GardenDC and with your gardening friends so other gardeners can find us too. Happy gardening!